price. So this, well, it's $50. These are $22. In the long run,
but it's also way bigger.
It really kind of ends up saving money. So you think if you spend, 50.
That's 20 ounce. That's big ounce, and it's more than twice the size, and it's only. Oh, sorry. Maybe it's okay.
Bucks to fill this all day at a paintball field. You fill it a couple times, $15. No, it's $10 for that. So you play, 5-10 times, you end up making money or saving money versus having
a business.
CO2 tank. But there are different types of CO2 tanks. They're not all aluminum like this. There are higher-end style tanks like these carbon fiber ones. And this specific one, this Ninja Superlight 68 4500 is $205. So it's considerably more than this. But really what the difference is really just that bottle. So there's not necessarily going to be any performance difference between.
Package arrived at carrier facility, Woodland Hills.
12 ounce, 20. So I'll bet the most common question for new paintball players is, what's the difference between CO2 and compressed air? First, let's start with explaining what CO2 is and what compressed air is. That right there, let's just move these over a little bit. That right there is CO2 tank. So CO2 tanks come in a variety of sizes. The most common size is probably this 20 ounce right here. 20 ounce. Yeah, so they come in, most common sizes are going to be a 9 ounce, 12 ounce, 20 ounce, and a 24 ounce. Those are the, four most common sizes you can kind of find anywhere. CO2 is, when it's stored in here at least, primarily liquid. The problem with that is that when you try to shoot, obviously maybe paintball guns need gas, not liquid. So the problem with that is when it's really hot outside or really cold outside, the expansion of that CO2 doesn't happen. Well, it does happen, but it doesn't happen quickly. So you can get big pressure fluctuations. Also, when you shoot fast, like with some of the electronic guns, that CO2 doesn't have time, that liquid CO2 doesn't have time to expand into gas. So you get a big pressure drop once the rate of fire increases and you're trying to draw off gas out of the bottle. Another drawback with CO2 is that a lot of paintball fields kind of have stopped filling these things, and it's more to get filled. So I know around here at least, most of the paintball fields are charging $6 to $7-ish to refill this every time. So it can be costly if you play all day. You could pay $15, $20 just in CO2 fills. So compressed air is also what it sounds like.
I was chosen.
This video explains the differences between high-pressure air bottles and CO2 bottles. The bottle on the lower side here is a Tippmann 48 cubic inch, 3,000 PSI bottle, and up here is a 20-ounce CO2 bottle. High-pressure air bottles can use both compressed air or nitrogen, sometimes called N2. Those are both used interchangeably. The CO2 bottle, however, can only use CO2. You cannot use compressed air in this. This video common question is, can I use high-pressure air from a shop compressor in my garage for the high-pressure air? Bottle on the lower side. Simple answer to that is no. Tippmann, this bottle uses 3,000 PSI bottle. Some high-pressure bottles use is a 2,500 CO2 bottle. Your typical shop compressor high-pressure air bottle only at about 100 PSI. Compressed air. Paintball guns sometimes operate at about 800 PSI inside the guns. The CO2 bottle, however, the way it works, can only regulate CO2 pressure by boiling off the CO2 into a gas. And at room temperature, it comes out at about 800 PSI. Air from a shop high-pressure air bottle has a regulator on the top. The simple answer to regulator reduces bottle pressures 3,000 PSI. Once again, some high-pressure bottles use 4,500 Some high-end guns do operate at your typical shop compressor at home is only at about 100 PSI. Both of these bottles Paintball guns, standardized fitting on the top, operate at about 800 This fits into what's called an ASA fitting. It's very standardized CO2 because of the way it works. Regulates its own pressure by boiling off exactly the same in that way. And at room temperature, it comes out at about any gun that can use CO2. The high-pressure air bottle has a regulator. That's not necessarily the case in the regulator. There are some high-end guns that can to the operating pressure of the gun. Once again, about 800 psi. Why would high-end guns one of these operate at lower pressures than this? The first one is access. Both of these can you get CO2 fills or can you get high-pressure air fills? Some mass merchant stores can only do the CO2. They cannot do the high-pressure air. That can make your decision pretty easy as to which you want to get. If you have a choice, the high-pressure air is always better for performance. The high-pressure air does not change its pressure with temperature like CO2 does. CO2 can have problems operating in very cold temperatures. You're going to get very, very consistent shots, shot after shot, with your high-pressure air. And if you fire your gun very quickly, full auto or 3-round burst or ramping modes, the compressed air will keep up with that rate of fire. The CO2 bottle will not. Your cost per fill at your pro shop is about the same for both of these bottles. Typically, we see about $5 per fill. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on where you're going. The high-pressure air bottle has a gauge. This will tell you how much pressure is left in your bottle, so you can always tell. The only way you can tell with the CO2 bottle is by weighing the bottle. CO2 is filled by weight. This is the smallest, or one of the smallest, high-pressure air bottles, the 48 cubic inch. This one will only fire about 500 shots. When you start getting into the more expensive bottles that are made out of carbon fiber, you get both a lighter weight bottle and a bottle that can fire well over 1,000 shots. This is a very common and popular CO2 bottle. This is the 20-ounce CO2 bottle. You can expect about 900 shots out of the CO2 bottle. This weighs a little bit more when full than this high-pressure air bottle. There are also several different sizes of the CO2 bottles. They start as small as 9-ounce, 12-ounce, and the standard 20-ounce, and you can also get 24-ounce bottles.
The difference between this, this is what it's supposed to look like. I mean, it's still gonna be all the same color, but you see the quality of that. You see what you're trying to make it look like that. Like you see how weird that looks. And I'm sure they're all the same, but now there's no difference in this shit. You want to talk about, you want lines? There's this red dot, there's a scope, okay, that's fine. But this doesn't change. They're all supposed to look the same. Now, this video explains the differences between high-pressure air bottles and CO2 bottles. The bottle on the lower side here is a Tippmann 48 cubic inch, 3,000 psi bottle, and up here is a 20-ounce CO2 bottle. High-pressure air bottles can use both compressed air or nitrogen, sometimes called N2. Those are both used interchangeably. The CO2 bottle, however, can only use CO2. You cannot use compressed air in this. A very common question is, can I use air from a shop compressor in my garage for the high-pressure air? The simple answer to that is no. This bottle uses 3,000 psi. Some high-pressure bottles use 4,500 psi. Your typical shop compressor at home is only at about 100 psi. Paintball guns operate at about 800 psi inside the guns. CO2, because of the way it works, regulates its own pressure by boiling off the CO2 into a gas, and at room temperature it comes out at about 800 psi. The high-pressure air bottle has a regulator on the top, and this regulator reduces the pressure to the operating pressure of the gun, once again about 800 psi. Some high-end guns do operate at lower pressures than this. Both of these bottles have a standardized fitting on the top. This fits into what's called an ASA fitting. It's very standardized for paintball. Oh wow, this has a totally different key mod that you're talking about. Look at this key mod. Look at that. Are they supposed to be the exact same? This video explains the differences between high-pressure air bottles and CO2 bottles. The bottle on the lower side here is a Tippmann 48 cubic inch, 3,000 psi bottle. Oh, that's even different than what I thought. And up here is a 20-ounce CO2 bottle.
on Amazon when I saw these bottles, these were the
Oh shit,
air
this
bottles,
doesn't even
not
have
the
chemos on
CO2.
the side.
But
That's
now they have these
nice.
have the yellow thing on them, and now apparently they're CO2. Why is that? Because these on Amazon were the air bottles that had the yellow cap, and now apparently, it's odd.
Yo, mine's not even like this. What the fuck?
Okay.
Pressure air bottles can use both compressed air
Oh,
or nitrogen, sometimes
there's
called
like holes,
N2.
there's some holes.
Those are both used interchangeably. The CO2 bottle, however, can only use CO2. You
Can it fit to the screen?
cannot use compressed air in this. A very common question is, can I use air from a shop compressor
Yeah,
in my
missing the
garage
rails on
for
the
the
side.
high pressure
There's
air?
rails on the side right there.
The simple answer to that is no. This bottle uses 3,000 psi. Some high pressure bottles use 4,500 psi. Your typical shop compressor at home is only at about 100 psi. Paintball guns operate at about 800 psi inside the guns. CO2, because of the way it
Dark
works,
earth.
regulates its own pressure by boiling off the
dark
CO2 into a gas, and at room temperature it comes out at about 800 psi.
Match to original
The high pressure
model
air bottle
weight,
has a
balance, and
regulator
controls.
on the top, and this regulator reduces the pressure to the operating pressure of the gun, once again about 800
Are you
psi.
fucking retarded?
Some
Like,
high-end
fucking
guns do operate at lower pressures than
Vortex is
this.
the cheapest brand there is.
Both of these
Number
bottles
two.
have a standardized fitting on the
Are you
top.
fucking retarded for
This
airsoft?
fits
You're
into what's
fucking
called an ASA fitting. It's very standardized for paintball. Both bottles are exactly the same in that way and will work on all guns.
So why do I need an adapter?
Any gun that can use CO2 can use compressed air.
What?
That's not necessarily the case in the reverse. There are some high-end guns that can only use compressed air and not CO2. Why would you choose one of these bottles over the other?
This is
The
different
first
too,
one is
than
access.
what I had.
Can you get CO2
Yes,
fills,
sir.
or can you get
I'm happy
high-pressure
with
air
this.
fills?
I'm
Some
looking
mass
good.
merchant
Look,
stores
I'm
can
looking
only
good.
do
I'm
the
like,
CO2.
make sure I do
They
that
cannot
too,
do
because
the high-pressure
I
air.
wanna see that
That
fuck
can
out
make
of
your
I
make your
wanna
decision
report
pretty
that shit
easy as to
out.
which you want to get. If you have a choice, the high-pressure air
Where's
is
that
always
though?
better for performance. The high-pressure
even
air
close
does
to
not
where
change
we
its
are right now.
pressure with temperature like CO2 does. CO2 can have problems operating in very cold temperatures. You're going to get very, very
Amazon,
consistent
okay.
shots, shot after shot with your high-pressure air. And if you fire your gun very quickly, full auto or 3-round burst or ramping modes, the compressed air will keep up with that rate of fire. The CO2 bottle will not. Your cost per fill at your pro shop is about the same for both of these bottles. Typically, we see about $5 per fill. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on where you're going.
That's
The
not even
high-pressure
right.
air
This
bottle
isn't
has a
right, but I like
gauge.
it better.
This will tell you how much pressure is left in your bottle, so you can always tell. The only way you can tell with the
So obviously
CO2
Star
bottle
makes the same
is
thing
by
with
weighing the
23
bottle.
guards, the amount of
CO2 is
guards,
filled
though.
by weight.
Pretty sure.
This is the smallest, or one of the smallest, high-pressure air bottles, the 48 cubic inch.
Oh, they don't-
This
definitely
will
don't make
only
this
fire
color
about
like that.
500
That's kinda
shots. When you start getting into the more expensive bottles that are made out of carbon fiber, you get both a lighter weight
I have a
bottle
30-round
and a
pivot
bottle
stack
that can
right there.
fire well over 1,000 shots.
Why, what's the difference?
This is a very common and
No,
popular
it was only 30 on this
CO2
side,
bottle.
yeah.
This is the 20-ounce CO2 bottle. You can expect about 900 shots out of the CO2 bottle. This weighs a little bit more when full than this high-pressure air bottle. There are also several different sizes of the CO2 bottles. They start as small as 9-ounce, 12-ounce, then this standard 20-ounce, and you can also get 24-ounce
Look how it's all the
bottles.
same color. And now you're changing it, but like you said, it's all the same color though.
I'm
198
so
with the
happy
red
I
dot.
have that recorded because the last time it said
198 with the
one
red
of them
dot.
gives you a 900 and one of them gives you 1,000, and now it was
How you feel about that?
900 and 500. What a
198
bunch
with the
of
red
fucking
dot.
morons. Yes, sir. Thank you for that message.
198 with a red dot. 198 with a red dot. Free one day, so that means the next day. Oh. Oh. Or did you change that just because you want to try to sell that, huh? Oh, wow. Oh wow, that's two 90-gram fucking things. Damn. That's two 90-gram fucking. You know, I'm gonna go with, since you weren't ready prepared for this. This is supposed to be the real color right here. With a red dot, my nigga. From who? 5-6 hours. From them. Red dot included. Red dot included. No, I got mine cheaper because you get these cheap on Amazon from different sellers. But that means this should have came with the red dot, my guy. Flat dark earth. Well, before I zoomed in again, it was all one color until then. Where's the red dot? This is the best air rifle I've bought so far. I love shooting it. When you buy one of these things, you definitely need to convert it to HBAs. Take a look at the pictures I have attached. You will need an regulated at 1100 output. So you control that. No, it's not. You're fucking retarded. Bro, the fucking bottle. First of all, the bottle twice that size. That's a small ass bottle. The one twice that size is $40. So that's like $25. The other thing's $20. The conversion, and that's it. What the fuck you talking about? Oh yeah, the whole reason I came here though in the first place. And I was chosen. Can't be broken. All one color. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, just as I said last time I saw this, that's the right color. Right there. Flat, dark, earth. All one color. All one color. Flat, dark, earth. That's it right there. Bye bye. I know they sell those. I remember seeing a video where they were selling just these things. I don't need the magazine, I just need the little plastic fucking belt these. And I'll be rolling. Oh yeah, there's it. Vroom, vroom, boom, 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 boom. 220 round. Spot row, 220 round metal stubby high capacity magazine for. Yeah, okay. Flat dark earth. Oh yeah, I had that. $19 for an air pistol. No, it's not. It says, look, it didn't say mag 2 seconds ago. Loser. He's a loser. And now we go in. Oh, look at this with the red dot again. You want to put you to work? Desert Eagle. No shit. The other one like this was way better. It was $35. Gamma varmint. Oh. Uh-oh. 219, really? Are you stupid? That's the one for $19 with a different bottom. Ooh, that's a good. Ooh, I like that safe right there. Willie Beeman. When I first went here, everything was so cheap. It was everything cheap. $26 for a red dot. Red green dot reflex sight scope. Wow, 4 reticles. $26. That's a nice one too. Oh, and it matches the fucking what's it? Sure, add to cart, yeah, for sure. You fucked it up. Oh, it's even cheaper. Black one. Ooh, even cheaper, 20. Oh look, 43. Since this is where you like to order from anyway, you like to charge me more money and then order from here anyway. And now whoa, why'd you just shrink that right now? Oh look, the Romeo site, the one you're talking about. Oh, it's a with a laser. Holy shit. $28. Look at that. Oh. So this is $20 basically. Mm. 50 bucks. So it's expensive, 50 bucks. Oh yeah, $6.29. Well, that's what's a red dot on too, shit. Yeah, so I really should have got my shit yesterday. That's what one day means. One day means the next day. Apparently. But hey, I'd rather you be doing mail fraud than anything else or whatever. It's a good one. Fayaki? It's like Fiyuki, like the ammo that I have, but Fayaki. Ooh, 40 way too expensive. Good. I just saw it for $26. I got my dude, $26. Boom. And I was chosen. $10. I was broken. With a blowback, shit. Shit's sad, boy. Spear gun, wow. Ooh, that's cool. Look at that. $200. Wow, you're really a fucking idiot, huh? I know those. I've seen them sold plastic things for fucking. For like, you know. I was broken. Oh wow. Wow, with a pistol grip and everything. Steel strike, anyway. Wow. Wow. I feel like this is 177 that's speaking more to the pellet part of it. Oh, look, that's the gun you're trying to sell as a Ruger. Oh, I'm sure they're not going to mind that you repackage their product and put a different name on it and charge more for it. Don't worry about it. That's not a big deal. People do it all the time. No big deal. Yeah, it's almost like a rite of passage. Look how you changed that, bro. I literally just watched you change that right now. Oh man, it's not gonna be good for you. But you got hookups. You got it. You got it. You're good, dog. You have nothing to worry about. Is that a fucking magazine? What the fuck is that? That's the pump? What is that? BB and Pet? Oh, this is the one they were selling inside the store. They tried to lie to me and told me it was airsoft. So on sale clearance for $49. I have it recorded actually. That's the good part about it. I just found out how I got it all recorded. Like, oh, actually, I made sure that it wasn't an airsoft before you asked because I knew you'd say that. Anyway, no biggie. And I was chosen. It shoots like a 6 hour because it is one. That's the motto. That shit is one. No such thing as a Virtus. No such thing as a Virtus.
We all hear the stories in the news. The good guy uses a gun to protect his family from criminals, and then he's the one who gets arrested.
Pistol modular.
Thanks to our court system.
So I thought they're definitely not gonna have it look two different colors like that. That looks fucking cheap and tacky and like homemade. But I hope you definitely send me one like that. I would love to get one like that. Oh, and the bottom, it's not gonna be black. It's gonna be more like a brown. The matching, what usually matches with flat dark earth. But whatever, you can do what you want. That was like plastic. Like cheap plastic too. Oh, is it kind of like how this doesn't match? Actually, now that I look at it, it kind of doesn't match. Because when it's two of these two, so. No 6 on the sides, no 6 on the sides. Because for sure, if there was 6L, they would have it on the sides, so 100% that's a fact. They're not gonna fucking. They're gonna put the same sites on here that they would sell individually, and their sites individually have 6 out on them. So you might want to do a fake print on there before you send it. Just saying. See, like people, they could use this to build a real gun out of like this same material. I don't know why you can't. You could just use this for a real handguard. This is the same size as the one on real. Different look. Not for better, but same size. it's supposed to be the same weight, same feel, same everything as the real one, how could it have a plastic magazine and still be the same weight and same feel and same everything? It's supposed to be an exact match of that. So how could it have such a different magazine? Are they making it heavier somewhere else? Something to think about. Idiot.
Recently, we watched in horror as two unspeakable tragedies unfolded in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio. Like all Americans, we at the NRA extend our deepest sympathies to the victims and their families, and we salute the courage of our law enforcement officials and first responders. But there's nothing about an insane criminal committing a horrible act that should lead to the government taking guns away from law-abiding citizens. That will only make us less safe. Yet that's exactly what we're seeing right now, a highly orchestrated effort to disarm American citizens, unlike anything we've ever seen in this country. It's an effort to destroy the NRA, to defame our millions of members and tens of millions of supporters. An effort that's fueled by billionaires and a multi-billion-dollar media machine that couldn't care less about fighting crime. Their fight is against you, your guns, and your freedom. And that's exactly why the NRA will always stand and fight and never give in. Because we can't make this country safe. We can't make our country a better place by slamming the door on the Constitution and the Second Amendment. The way to make the country safe is to slam the door on violent criminals, like NRA members have been demanding for the past 40 years.
What the fuck? Why did it go? What? What just happened? What just happened, yo?
If you like your M4AR type rifles, then you're going to
that's
like
exactly
this
the same
week's
thing.
review.
Okay.
And with twin CO2 capability, the fun should last as long as it takes you to say its name. And believe me, that's quite a while.
That's the same thing. Okay, it has a better
It
magazine.
should just say its name. And believe me, that's quite a while.
Yeah, look, it even has a red dot. Look, it even has a better magazine though. Look, they're trying to change it. I mean, there's no key guard in the world that looks like that. Please on recording. Yes. I mean, I don't know what the fuck they're doing there now. They're really trying to change it, even though I'm just looking straight at it, but it's okay. Wow. That's the same fucking thing. Different stock, but this is the exact same. Wow. Okay.
The following program does not contain firearms, hunting, violence, or cruelty to animals. All guns shown are compressed air in springs, CO2, or pre-charged forms and are not gunpowder based. The program is aimed at being informative, entertaining, and above all, promoting safety. The following people make up the production team and give up their time for free. Hello and welcome to AAR On Air. This week we're back to the M4AR type rifle with the latest offering from the Crosman Corporation. It is the Crosman DPMS Panther Arms SBR semi-auto blowback CO2 4.5mm BB rifle. Now that title is longer than most ex-wives bear a grudge. And with a claimed FPS of up to 430 feet per second, it's probably about as dangerous. But enough of that. Is it any good, and does it meet the claimed figures? Walk round then first of all, and I must say it certainly looks the part. It has an overall length of 670 millimeters with the buttstock closed, and up to 770 millimeters if you take it to the full extreme of its 6 adjustable positions. The weight is about 3 kilograms or 6.6 pounds, which gives it a suitably realistic feel. Now up front, I can tell you at its £279 UK price tag, it is probably one of the better replica guns of this type, with the use of either metals or high-grade plastics, polymers or whatever you want to call them. But seriously, it does have some higher grade materials with it. Being very picky and trying to find fault, the only real plastic looking part is the front angled grip. But that said, when in use, it doesn't feel that way at all. And it makes the gun very comfortable to use. But if you did take exception to it for some reason, then no problem, because this is all adaptable and changeable due to the mass of rails on and around the barrel area. You could hang more stuff on this than a Harrods Christmas tree in September. Personalising this would not only be easy, but would add to the whole fun part of this gun. A friend of mine has started to print accessories on a 3D printer even. The end of the barrel has a threaded extension. It's no more than that, but it can be removed if you'd rather, and then fit a left-handed threaded silencer. Now this is the 14mm airsoft type fitting, I believe, which means you may need to look a little further afield to get one that actually does silence things, or you're going to need to adapt a mock airsoft one. Either way, I think it would add to the overall look and effect. I fitted a simple Hawk red dot to this one, preferring that to the open flip-up sights front and rear, with the rear adjustable for windage. The main body of the gun is a heavy grade polymer and supports the magazine dropout, pistol grip, trigger, etc. Again, it's all mostly plastic, but it is.
Okay, and look at this now.
Oh, God.
I don't even
They
know
played this
what
so
happened to this can, but something terrible, I'll tell you that.
Hey, my nigga, is you losing?
Ooh, this one is,
Is you losing?
this one's still alive.
Wow.
This right here is a review on the Sig Sauer MPX. This is a semi-automatic 177 caliber pellet rifle with a 30-round clip, and there is also an
If anyone could do that,
MCX,
I know you
and the
can.
MCX has a longer barrel.
I know.
They run off these
I know you can do it. You'll be fine.
off these large 88 gram or
I don't think much
90
kids
gram
anyway, so
CO2
it's
cartridges. The interesting thing though is that they can be converted to high pressure air, which makes them more
Oh my God! Look! This is the same video. It's the same video. How many different ways
BBA,
do you
yeah,
do
guess
it,
what?
bro?
I heard that your package came today. You know what?
which makes them more accurate. Rick on Air Gun Web TV, he has a good video on how to convert your Sig Sauer MPX to HPA, high pressure air. This is Tyler at Air Venturi. This guy really shows you everything about the kit. Air Tanks for Sale has the same thing, and they will match prices, but you can get this, Tanks for Sale has the same thing.
Flat talker.
And they will match prices, but you can get this Venturi tank that already fits the SIG, There's a lot of these that have 800 psi regulators, but you gotta have to get the special 1100 psi regulators. I just want to show you this real quick. This is Hard Air magazine. You got the information on everything. This is the HPA conversion that they did. They watched the Air Venturi video. They basically had this. Yeah, it's the longer version of the MPX. They basically had the same findings as Pyramid Air. CO2 is very temperature dependent, and so HPA is
way over our head.
Dear San Francisco.
Dear San Francisco.
Dear San Francisco.
Dear San Francisco.
Hey, I'm Eric with the Kentucky Gun Company, and today we're going to show you something a little bit different. Normally you see guns, guns, and guns. Well, this is a gun. It's just an air gun. SIG came out with the air guns last year, and we decided we're going to start selling guns. Anything that goes boom, we sell. So why not sell an air gun? Today we're talking about the SIG MCX. We're going to unbox it, we're going to show it to you, we're going to tell you a little bit about it, then we're going to go to the range and you're going to see a little bit of accuracy and a little bit of how loud it is. So let's open her up and see what we get in the box. When you Hey, this is Eric at the Kentucky Gun Company, and today I'm going to show you a fun little gun. This is the Umarex Legend series. It's the new M&P. So let's pop this box open and see what we got. We just got these things in and I'm pretty excited about it.
I don't know why they would mark the price like that.
So basically when you pop open the box, you got your owner's manual.
So
You got one magazine.
I think on Amazon you find it for like 45.
You've got an Allen wrench. That basically works to open the CO2 port. And then you also have the rifle,
which is full metal.
Now this rifle, it feels and weighs the same as the real firearm. It's all metal design. It does have a little bit of plastic in the pistol grip and on the forearm. Other than that, that is about it. It has the fold-out stock, so you do have this button here. You push that, locks into place. That folds out, just like the real deal. And it also actuates, so this item is actually a full or semi-automatic. And the way you do that is, it has a selector switch on the bottom of the rifle. I'll also show you this in the range once we get in there. But on white, you're on safe. One notch, one red dot, that's semi-automatic. Two red dots is fully automatic. So once you have that down, you're ready to roll. Let's see, and